Now, here's your hosts, the League Dad, Kevin, Mitchell, and Alistair.
Hello and welcome to the All In Podcast. LCS Spring Finals has concluded and we have our champion. I think we have someone on this podcast that would be very happy to know who that champion is. And it is Team Liquid. They won from the lower bracket. They took down C9 and then they took down FlyQuest in a pretty dominant fashion. Before we get into it, how you doing, Kevin? How are you feeling after this amazing weekend for you?
Ecstatic, exhilarated, excited, just all the X's. Like, it's great, but so unexpected. Like, it's shocking, honestly. Like, we did our predictions right. I thought they would hit finals, but I did not think they would win this. Maybe it would be close, but like, I didn't think they would win the way they did. I have so many thoughts, but just off the top of my head, I'm so happy. It's been 5 goddamn years of me cheering basically blindly, right? Like watching hope after hope. And when I finally give up hope, and I'm like, APA sucks. Jan's not it. What the fuck, man? Dude, these guys are crazy. So that's my initial take, but I have tons of thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, it was a great weekend for them overall, just completely defined by Team Liquid. I think that's the nice thing about winning from the lower bracket is if you actually make the run, you play on Saturday and Sunday, and it feels like the entire weekend is just about you, right? And it feels like, same with like NRG last year, right? Sometimes when you win from the upper bracket, it's like the day before, like let's go to last year's spring finals. Like Golden Guardians just barely beats FlyQuest 3-2, and it's like, oh, it's crazy hype. And then Cloud9 ends up winning anyways, and it's kind of like, it's still great for Cloud9, but like the narrative is different, where this narrative, it's like, you get to really hyper focus on just how well Team Liquid did all weekend. So let's start with a little Cloud9 talk, my favorite, some Cloud9, another 0-3 from them. Team Liquid kind of just like dismantled them. There was some close moments for like a second or two, but really it was just very one-sided. So let's talk about Team Liquid versus Cloud9. What were your thoughts on that series and how you feel? How were you feeling after you saw this series as well?
After I saw this series, I was hoping that I could change my bet, my prediction, because I was like, holy shit. Okay, so first of all, we'll get it out of the way. Team Liquid was not perfect in the series. These are games where actually, yes, they clobbered them on the scoreboard, and they did win. They were holistically the better team, by far. It feels good to say. I will say, I did like put up a fight in some of those games. Like, it wasn't like as one side as the timer and the scoreboard shows. However, like so many of their fundamental issues that we saw through regular season, through even early playoffs, like they still had them. They had no idea what to do if they couldn't win lane, and they didn't play around JoJo well. They didn't. Fudge is a fraud. Like, might as well get this out of the way. I'm sorry. Like, we will give him his laurels. He was good at different seasons at different points, but like in recent era, he is probably single-handedly one of the biggest major consistent negatives on the Cloud9 rosters. That's stopping them from, like, he's like the just good enough and just consistent enough to get you to the to international events, right? So they haven't changed him. Maybe he's friends with Jack. I don't know, man. But like this guy, he is a fraud. He has no pressure. He has no idea what he's doing. Against at least recently. Against Impact, he got out. He had one very good play, I would say, when he got that cleanup kill under tower after Blabber completely trolled him. But man, fraud factor is a thing, man. So I'll just rant forever if allowed to. So I want to hear from you.
Not forever. Not about Fudge, at least, because I think it's kind of been the same thing said about him through all the different medias, all the different platforms, just like, yeah, he's a fraud. I think Blippo talked a lot of crap about him on a pros episode that got a lot of coverage, where the guy puts on no pressure, right? The guy was Blippo, or Fudge was constantly saying he was worried about like not getting counterpick against Whippo and stuff like that. And honestly, Cloud9, they gave him counterpick on a lot of games, and he played carries in all the games, and he didn't do anything. So yeah, the fraud allegations I think are pretty accurate. And honestly, there's like nothing else to say about it, right? We've been getting into Fudge and talking shit about him for like a solid like 2 years, like a long time, where
Mhm.
when it gets to the highest moments, consistency is whatever if you don't like make plays, right? If you don't do anything spicy, if you don't actually win your team the game. Um, but then, yeah, I mean, Impact was a rock. He did actually pull out the Ignite Flash, and it was fine because I think Cloud9 was Fudge was just not the same level as a Buppo, gonna challenge him on like I guess side laning and stuff because Impact felt like he was just there all the time when needed. Um, yeah, it was game one was pretty one sided, right? Team Liquid pretty much it was like even, and then Umti gets a pentakill on Jax in the jungle. And then all of a sudden it's just the game's over, right? Obviously, because Umti had a crazy game one. It was like this game was actually C9 favorite kind of and pretty even up until like when Jax got the pentakill. They pretty much traded bot lanes, right? Like Renekton killed Team Liquid's bot lane, Jax and Cassante, I think. Yeah, Jax and Cassante, they killed C9's bot lane. But I think something to note is that in this fight, I thought Jojo Pune like really mishandled it in the Umti Pentakill fight, where Blabber actually flashed onto APA as Maokai onto the Ziggs and caught him, right? And then Jojo had the opportunity to chain CC and ulti the Ziggs, but Jojo decided to not ulti APA and one shot him. And APA, he did end up flashing in place, so he wasted that. But he ended up getting his entire combo out. He got his ulti and all of his basic abilities out before dying. And then Jojo tanked all of it, and then flashed, and then died and ultied like the tanks or something. And that to me was like, wow, I think that was a game changer right there. If Jojo just committed his ulti to chain CC APA, APA doesn't get all of his cooldowns on Ziggs off and do a shit ton of damage, it seems like it's a very one fight for Cloud9 because it was close anyways, right? It ended up being at the later stages just a 2v2 for the top jungle. So yeah, I think JoJo actually messed that team fight up, and it did give Jax the pentakill. And I'm not gonna lie, dude, I felt like Cloud9. I mean, they still put up a fight in game two, but like when a team is this fragile and you mess up something like that, you throw away your lead, it feels like the game is just over, right? I felt the same way when Cloud9 was playing against FlyQuest. Their bot lane, they got a 2-0 lead up on FlyQuest's bot lane. Cloud9 was ahead all of game one, and then they lose one team fight in mid lane, and then the series is just over. They just collapsed after that. And I feel like that was a turning point for Cloud9. It was game one, Umti gets a pentakill. The series was over from there. Like Cloud9, they put up a couple more fights, but it was just the momentum was gone, right? There was not enough to really finish out the series. So any other key points you wanted to point out in the series?
Yeah. Other key points is I'll give credit. That fight we were describing where we think JoJo kind of misplayed and all that stuff, and Umpty and Impact played really well. Also, Fudge played that fight well. I said
Yeah,
at
he
one
did.
point he
Yeah.
actually came down, one shot Yan, like did everything he needed to do, got 2 kills. His only misplay is he dashed over the wall to complete the continue the fight when they were up 4 versus 2, and like it made sense, but because of the JoJo's Orianna and all, dragging Umpty into range of JoJo and then JoJo getting one tapped right after, I was like, oh my god. So
Yeah.
I think that was not Fudge's fault. I would say that throughout this series, I think Yan and Core JJ played really exceptionally too. Like Impact high level throughout. Also agree. I don't think the Ignite was getting punished because it's Fudge, but I think Yan and Core JJ, like we were hearing this throughout the playoffs, right? They were getting bans against them because they would destroy you too hard. And like you see it here. We were already saying pre-playoffs, like maybe they're the best bot lane. It sounded kind of weird at the time because they were so shaky as a team. But I think it's starting to become like more and more of a thing. Whereas like, no, they were dominant. They were extremely high value and they're on the same page, right? And Core JJ was legit.
With years and years of not having Team Liquid Faith, like, I don't know, like, come through. Like, you sound so hesitant and slow. Like, Yeon and Cordier are so clearly the best bot lane. I think they have been for most of playoffs. And you're like, I think, there's a chance they might be pretty good. And I'm like, no, dude, they're, like, obviously clearly the best bot lane. They were shitting on everybody in lane. They were like...
I was, like, coming out of therapy, man. I was
like... You're, like, in trauma therapy. You're like, I'm afraid to have too much faith in this bot lane. You're like, yeah, they could be pretty good. But no, I mean, let's be real. Yeon and Cordier were winning every single lane. I don't think they lost a lane in playoffs.
Yeah.
Like, maybe they lost a couple here and there. But, like, I remember their 5-game FlyQuest series. they won all 5 lanes. They just didn't they just didn't win the series. And then after
Uh-huh.
that, every series was a win. They won every series after that loss, right? I'm pretty sure. I don't think they lost a single lane matchup in all the playoffs, if we're being honest.
Exactly.
So yeah, they
I'll
were
also
they're easily the best
say
bot
I'll
lane.
also add in because I didn't mention this. There was like some element of JoJo, like I mean, he locked in Karma game 3, which is like the ultimate. Well, just let me
Just
lose in peace.
just
With
pick me whatever.
Lucian Nami bot, with Lucian Nami bot, the NA special.
Yeah,
I was like, dude, we're going to fight. We're going to MSI.
yeah.
And Fudge also locked in on a useless Olaf. But what I was going to mention was while Jojo Pyun, yeah, this is not the team for him. Maybe it's him as a problem or whatever. But a lot of moments this game where like AP lived on like 3 health. Like he literally just like walked out, and I was like, what the hell? He survived that, and then you see him emoting, you see him playing well, you see him getting. They're like, I don't want to ban Ziggs or, dude. This guy was a good player this series. Like he legitimately, it wasn't like a superstar or anything, but he was legitimately pulling his weight by far, which I did not expect. Right, I thought there would have been a gap in lane, and
Yeah.
he did some weird flashes. He jumped flash and he's like, oh, I can't auto send it in Shroud. He's just like hyphy, you could tell,
Yeah.
but he was consistently there for his team, and he was like very on board. He has leveled up throughout the playoffs up to this point.
I mean, I thought he was really good. I thought he was gapping all the other mid laners. Like he definitely was better than JoJo and Jensen over the weekend,
Yeah,
like by a lot.
absolutely.
Because a bit of a collapse on the side of JoJo and Jensen, though, to be honest. But still, like APA's Tristana game 2 of Cloud9 vs TL, he was the win condition, right? I think he made a very potentially questionable choice where C9 was taking Dragon and Team Liquid APA was just going to split topside, right? And APA had no TP, so like, okay, well, we're just going to give Dragon, kind of sketchy, right? But what ends up happening is APA, he just runs it all the way down topside. He takes tier 1 and tier 2 turret, and then Umti and him, they sneak Baron on spawn, because everybody is on Dragon for Cloud9, and they're resetting. And then Yeon, he goes mid to act, right? To like pretend and just like everything's fine, I'm just clearing the mid wave. And they sneak a Baron, and that kind of like Cloud9 was kind of ahead in game 2, I felt like, and that Baron sneak just won them the game straight up. And that was kind of an APA slash Umpty play where the choice to stay topside and split, and then to rotate to this Baron that spawned. That was really smart. That was a big brain move. That's an Umpty move. That's not a Pioshik move.
It's not a Pioshik move. Also, Tristana's not a meta pick here in America. We haven't played that shit in a while, right? So that's a pick he pulled out and made it seem effective, right? Like he was against Hui, which is a late game hyper carry as well. And he demolished turrets. There were bad plays that Liquid made where Liquid got caught, right? As you mentioned, he's like, all right, we'll take 2 turrets. And that Baron call, like I almost cried. I think that was the moment that they really broke C9 when they got that Baron. Because he literally wrote in all chat after, he's like, guys, Baron or whatever.
Yeah.
It was so
trash talk was good.
Like the trash talk when you're not good is one thing, but he was playing at a consistently higher level, and that Baron would not have happened with most other mid picks, right? Maybe Cassiopeia can manage it, a Heimer or some shit, but like
Azir,
of the meta
no
picks,
Azir.
Like or Azir, yes,
yeah. But I was actually watching. I don't know if you caught the JLXP Jets.
Yes, I did. I watched both.
You watched both, yeah. So his most recent episode, it is interesting. It's actually something we haven't talked about much, but the Azir ban, very interesting because, well, let's be honest, right? APA was not good at Azir at all when it was meta, right? When it was still allowed, and JoJo and Jensen are notorious, and Quid, right, are notorious, really, really good at Azir. So Team Liquid 100% deserved it. They were kind of stomping everybody towards in the lower bracket, but there were a couple things that kind of helped like the collapse of C9, because this is fair to call it a collapse, right? Super Team not making it to MSI, getting like swept 2 series in a row. Like the gap between C9 being in 3rd place and then 1st and 2nd is massive, right? It's a whole like best of 5 sweep between C9 versus FlyQuest and TL. So the lack of Azir, it was interesting, right? Because it's like a mage that you can playmake on, which is kind of perfect for JoJo, right? But JoJo really felt neutered being on champs like Hui and Karma. It's like you can't get that JoJo effect where he dominates lane and he roams around and he takes over the game. Like you just can't do that stuff, right, on those champions, right? And they never like really tried to get JoJo like Talia or something, and they never really tried to get JoJo like Akali or anything like that. Like they just stuck him on control mages, right? They tried the Yone in the FlyQuest series, and he just kind of didn't do anything, right? They didn't play around him, so I do feel like JoJo was just had a really poor place in the meta and in his team. He like just could not fit in. And then to be fair, for the rest of Cloud9, they all massively underperformed, right? APA released an interview saying that they had 5 really, really talented players on Cloud9, but they were not cohesive. They had no team play. They never helped each other out. And it's just true. It's just very, very true, right? Like Fudge being on an island, going even in lane with counter picks and then doing nothing is, yeah, it's we can blame him for it, but like, is it really different from what everybody else is doing, right? Vulcan is never roaming. He's never helping any other lane, right? JoJo is getting camped to all hell, and Blabber's not helping anybody either because he's full clearing, right? And it felt like the only game that Blabber was like proactively doing a lot of good stuff was game one, on the Maokai when he was kind of playing selfishly and ganking APA and stuff like that, but everybody was just very selfish. Nobody was helping each other out, so Cloud9's got some stuff to figure out, so let's do the speculation before we move on to the rest of the weekend. What's going to happen to Cloud9 next split? Are they making changes? Do they keep things the same? Okay. You're making changes?
Yes,
okay.
But I think in the time that they're doing, there's only 2 changes they really will make. One is there's a world they just don't do any roster changes because of the timing. But I don't think that's the likely world. But if they did no changes, they need a coaching change. Their coaching is dog shit. Their drafting is completely abysmal. I think Liquid's coaching staff completely gapped them. I think they figured out all their win cons. They drafted kind of how do I say this? They drafted kind of cynically. They were like, well, we banned JoJo out. You know, we take out Ari for playmaking and Romy. We take out Nico for like those massive 5-man wins that they were getting, 5-man ults he was getting. And what's he gonna do? And they were right. Or they bring Zen back, and they let the coaches, continuing to be maybe fraudulent on this team, at least for this split. And Zen is, to me, the most obvious choice to make this roster as close to old C9 with just an upgrade in mid over MNS. Like if MNS can get there with Zen, I think that to me, JoJo still should be able to plug and play with Zen. I think with such a vocal leadership role, it's just a clear upgrade.
Yeah, I think I think bringing back Sven is a popular sentiment, at least in our podcast and on the Discord we were talking about it, where Sven was too clearly a part of like the soul and identity of Cloud9, right? Like him leaving just had a very unexpected impact. And then I think a lot of people are going back and forth. Like I think a lot of the doomsayers are immediately like, get rid of Fudge, go get Licorice, just get him out. And then there's a lot of like reasonable takes that I've seen where like Cage Roll or something or LS will be like, well, who are you going to replace Fudge with, right? And like, is it worth it? What if Fudge goes elsewhere? How bad is Fudge really? Is Fudge bad, or is Fudge's team bad at playing with him? And I'm going to be honest, it has been too long. It has been too many times that I've coped for Fudge. It has literally been like 2 years since I've been coping for Fudge and saying, yeah, he's really good. Who are you going to get to him? He's still one of the best. He has really good mechanics in lane and blah, 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 blah. Like it's hard to find a replacement, right? And I'm just, at this point though, seeing this level of inactivity, this level of like negative clutch, like just like opposite of a playmaker, I don't care how consistent he is. I don't care how like useful as like, I don't know, a stable top laner. Like he just doesn't do anything. Like I need a playmaker. I need someone who takes whatever gold they have, whatever champion they have to win the game. And he doesn't do any of that shit. So I'm actually, after like a year and a half of potentially coping for him and like not necessarily defending him, but like kind of like trying to be a mediator, I'm off. I don't want him anymore. I want him gone.
To add on to the Fudge train, I mean, everything we've said about him in terms of giving him chances, which we both did, and say, he has his strengths. Who do you replace him with? This is literally a conversation we had at Bjergsen toward the end. We said, who would you replace with Bjergsen? He's so consistent. Look at his stats. He's in the top 2 or 1 even in laning stats at times. Yeah. But the reality is he's inactive. He doesn't have the X factor anymore, the clutch factor. He continues to play in a way that is resource heavy, although Bjergsen less so. But like Fudge look at how many draft resources he's been given this whole year, and he has not proved anything on a year that you would say is relatively sparse in terms of top lane competition, right? There's no lane dominant players. There's no like weird Summit Alphara year. There's no, not that they were good players, but like at least in lane, right? There's nothing to contest him. He should be beating everyone not named Bwipo and Impact like pretty hard, and he's not even doing that really. Like it's competitive, unfortunately, between him and like other people. So I would rather just see someone else, because to me it's like it's the same argument you can make for Vulcan, right? If he had been here a while, you're like, he's really good. He, he's like the best engager. He has such a great peak. Who are you going to replace him? I'm like, I don't know, but like Zen is there. There are people who are proven to be good. Licorice might not be the right answer. He might hate C9. I don't know. I mean, he did get kind of left to the wayside.
Or Fudge, yeah.
Yeah, or Fudge, right?
No, for Fudge.
For Fudge. Yeah, sorry. For Fudge. Yeah, you're absolutely right, which might make it more fun for him to come back. But my point is like, yeah, these are all arguments, and that's fine if you're like okay with being consistently top 3. But they're not going to get past that if they continue to shackle themselves to this guy who I feel like is getting more and more figured out as we continue to play. Like NA is catching up. NRG beat him last time too. I thought that should have been the wake-up call. He got smashed at Worlds. I thought that should have been the wake-up call. But he keeps making it back on.
Yeah, I mean, I would also be interested to see if he does anything or changes as a player on a different team. Like, what happens if you just put him on a different team? Like, sometimes people just need the breakup. There's tons and tons of evidence in the world in League of Legends that there's literally nothing that'll change anything except breaking things up and then trying again, and then boom, it's like a whole new world for everybody, right? Everybody's playing so much better. But yeah, so let's move on from C9. They're gone. They're not going to MSI. The first MSI they've missed in a long time, very very long time.
International they've missed period in a while.
Yeah, they haven't missed the only time they missed international was Worlds C9 2020, I believe. That was the Sven.
Like the most recent, yeah.
Yeah, that was Sven Niski. No, that's the only time. Not even recent. That's the only time.
Yeah, we did say that metric back then, huh?
Yeah. All right, let's move on to FlyQuest versus Team Liquid. Bit closer. This was a 3-1, although it did not start close. Team Liquid in game 1, almost perfect game FlyQuest. And let's be honest, right? If FlyQuest, I'm pretty sure I remember they overcommitted to kill Impact. That it wouldn't have worked. Yeah, I remember. I think they all dove bot lane or something to kill Impact, and they did get the turret, but like I think they lost a bunch of shit too in return. And I was like, okay, they literally overcommitted to kill Impact, so they wouldn't get perfect games, because that's what happened, right? They got pretty much essentially perfect gamed. It was very not close that game 1, and then the rest of the series did kind of get open up and be more even. Like game 2 was really really fun to watch for FlyQuest win to bring it back. But yeah, overall, Team Liquid had a pretty dominant series. What are your initial opinions on this series, on the finals?
I think in this series, more so than maybe even the first series, despite the scoreboard being closer, I felt like FlyQuest did not know how to like create a winning composition. They didn't have a win con late game. They were like, I feel like the only vague idea they had is like, well, we have Sen and Tom Kench. Maybe that will be a win condition, or we have the Kaisa pick into the Smolder was very confusing to me because they never used it in the way that theoretically has to be played. They had no pressure. I think Impact completely showed a masterclass this game. I think Bwipo actually played much better than Fudge still, but I think that Impact showed his class in terms of the amount of space he made, the plays he made, that 1v3 dive that gank that he got a kill out of and just like survived him. Like, so you're like, what in God's name are they doing?
That was against C9, but yeah.
Oh shit, that was against C9?
Yeah, that was the game 3. Jojo came up on Karma. Yeah.
Sorry, they're already dead and I'm flaming them.
It's okay, it fits. It's still Impact is perfect.
His Cassante play too, he was like honestly dancing through some of those fights. Like he comes out like 2 health and I'm like, how did he get out of that? He survived multiple times on low health. I don't think his TF is it. I don't think he knows how to play that character. Yes,
Woo!
the GP counterpick was really good,
Spicy.
but like he got smashed. I mean, they won the game, but not because of TF, guys.
Hey, no. Hey, he did plenty of like gross scoring or like bushy where he would just get chased around and stuff. Hey, that stuff works, okay? TF is very fast. He's got fleet.
Yeah.
He stuns people. He clears the wave. And he's got static shiv. Hey, if you chase him, you waste your time. It's like the Baus, you know? Baus is like 0-10 in top side, getting killed for the 11th time, but hey, his team's winning. That stuff matters. I think, you know.
You're right, it does. I would say that Jan also ascended in this series in core as well. And this is something that in the JLXP Jap mentioned, which I really agree with. You really see the difference in Jan and ProJJ when you have less selfish players on the team. Mm-hmm. He said that some in Pyoshik, good individuals, they have high peaks, but they never knew how to make space in team fights. And it really like made me think and like go back and watch like everything Impact does. This guy is just almost every team that Impact has ever been on. You know, Danny's great years, Double Ip's great years. Not all of them, right? But like so many of these masterfully crafted teams in terms of like, wow, these are Prodigy 80 carries are doing so well. Impact has been a part of a lot of them. And I thought about it's like, wow, you're right. And you see the fight, sees infinite pressure, has kill pressure, knows how to fall back for space, knows how to sack himself. He doesn't play for KDA, but he still makes it out all the time. Like, I also don't think he's been like this for forever, by the way. I think that he's always been very high level, like top 3, bare minimum for his whole career. But I think there were times like toward the ends of Team Liquid where like there were times where like, what is he doing during the regular season? Like we were saying this, I was saying this back then. So I think him going off, having the breakup, but then coming back on good terms was very good for him. I think he's actually gotten better, which is crazy to say. And I think him and Faker continue to prove that it's not a question of them being old to be performant. He's probably Monty Krista said this on his live viewing, which I know a lot of people don't watch Monty, but I was watching him. He said Impact would be an upgrade to most LCK teams too, by going if he went back right now. He's like, probably. Do you really think like Hanwha's top laner is better? Do you really think like the King and his peak maybe, but King and Rascal, all these names that you keep hearing and seeing recycled, Lord Morgan, like, do you really think these people are better than Impact on a Korean training regiment? I think no. Like Zeus is better.
Yeah, okay. Zeus is better, right? But Zeus is almost always a carry. Like when we think about actual like tank play, like if you just had a tank top meta, right? I mean, Impact is the team fighting like protect your carry god. Yeah, I totally agree with that idea. They're kind of ideas and concepts in a tank top laner that you can't really find in a selfish like carry type of top laner, right? Like you're going to be thinking about angles of how to engage and how to fight and how to do damage versus like how do I position to peel for my carry? How do I like position to like disrupt, right? These things are like really hard, I think, if you don't play with them, because they're also things that you can't really gain climbing through solo queue well. You can kind of do it, right? But there's a big difference between being like, you know, a Yone top player climbing through solo queue and being like a Shen player climbing solo queue or an Ornn player, right? Like it's very hard to be the Ornn player and climb up to challenger in solo queue versus Yone or whatever, right? Or Aatrox or some shit. So I think, you know, Impact has been doing it for like 12 years, 13 years, like forever. He's been doing it for like a long ass time being a tank top laner. So yeah, definitely deserved. I mean, he's NA's best top laner, has been for a long time, probably will be for a very long time. He's like only in his like early 30s, I think, and like for gaming that sounds old, but for people who are like living real life and stuff, that's actually very young, right?
Yeah.
Impact is a young guy. Faker is a young guy. I think Faker's 28 or 29 or something. Like these are young people in the world, right? Yeah, great stuff from Impact. I do think so. You mentioned draft before, so I'm going to go back and circle around to draft ideas. Not to take any steam out of Team Liquid's flame, because they were clearly the best, but FlyQuest, they did have some allegations reach them. One of their coaches got put on an administrative leave because of a very nasty rumor allegation. I'll just say it briefly, but we won't get into it too much, but he was pretending to be a 13-year-old boy to attract 17-year-old girls, supposedly. We don't know if it's true or not. But yeah, that's grounds for, you know, it doesn't matter where or what point, you know, it doesn't matter if you're right about to win worlds, right? You you probably should bench that guy. You probably should, suspend that guy until you figure out if it's true or not. So it was unfortunate. It literally happened like a couple days right before the finals, and this is what on Double F's co-stream they were saying that he was actually their drafting coach. So I don't know if it's actually true or not, or I don't know how much influence this guy had, but losing your drafting coach a few days before finals, and then FlyQuest went from being a very good drafting team to an absolutely god-awful drafting team, it did feel like, FlyQuest was not as prepared as they could have been. Because let's just look at Game 1's draft, okay? Let's look at Game 1's draft from FlyQuest. Team Liquid, they did FlyQuest did first pick Nautilus, right? And then Team Liquid responded with, I think they did Talia Smolder or something, or Smolder and Tom Kench. I think it was Smolder Tom Kench or Talia Tom Kench or something like that. I don't know. But regardless, right, Team Liquid picked Tom Kench very early on, and then FlyQuest proceeds to pick Vi into it. So now they have Nautilus and Vi, and then later they go on to pick Kaisa and Urgot all into Tom Kench. It is just a self-counter, right? Like, I think it's pretty obvious for everyone that, you would normally pick Tom Kench to counter Vi, and they countered themselves. So, very unfortunate for FlyQuest. Game 1 was very deservedly almost a perfect game from Team Liquid, because the draft was just so unbelievably one-sided. But then if we look at, even if we go to, Game 3, I think, right? So Game 2, FlyQuest did win. That was actually a really fun game to watch. We had Jensen on the Annie. We had Inspired make some really splashy plays on the Lee Sin. The draft was, I think fine from FlyQuest to win. But then I think in Game 3, right, we see that FlyQuest, they have Gangplank, Viego, Annie, Senna, TK. And honestly, it's just a team that does a whole lot of nothing. They do a whole lot of lane trading, right? You have one go button engage in Jensen. Everybody else is like they don't have a lot of flexibility in how they play, right? So I think FlyQuest's drafts, as you said, and as a lot of people have said, were really, really bad this series. Team Liquid, they just felt like they had all the answers, right? They had enough.
Missed a ban in that game that you're talking about.
Yeah, they missed a ban. Yeah, that's just
It's
really unfortunate.
Yeah, you're right. That would be such a big influence. Jeez.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. I mean, I don't know if it changes anything, because Team Liquid honestly felt like they had answers to every single thing. I felt like they had, they had the Volibear, right? And then now they're banning Volibear. Okay, well they have the Jax, and Umti has shown that if you give him a stun, he will make lots of plays, right? And then they had the perfect APA pick, right? So they had throughout the series they had multiple different picks that APA could go to, right? His Talia was too good, honestly. It was just naked flipping people over and over again, right? That's not draft, that's just hands diff, honestly. If you're getting flicked like that, they had the Asol at the right time, they had the Ziggs at the right time, and the Cloud9 series and stuff. So I think for the most part, all the champion pool stuff, even if FlyQuest had better drafts, they would have just been in a better spot, but Team Liquid would still have an amazing draft on their side. And I think the play, right, you can't really blame the draft for some of the play stuff, and I just think Jensen wasn't really it this series, right? I think Jensen being put on Annie all those games was probably he was probably tilted. He probably didn't want to be on Annie. It was probably a bad draft choice to keep going back to the Annie, right? I think the Annie is a strong pick, but it's not one of those picks you just pick 3 times in a row and hope it works, right? Because he really started to devolve, especially Game 4, Jensen's Annie was rough. I think same thing with Inspired on the Lee Sin, it just wasn't the right time to play Lee Sin, right? He's playing it into Talia and Poppy, and I'm like, oh, it was rough, man. Really, really rough for FlyQuest. And then Masu and Buzio, I think that they struggled. They really struggled to stay relevant in the series, right? I feel like Masu had really poor participation in team fights. He just seemed to not be there when he needed to be. And Buzio was there a little too much. He was just getting caught alive and dying, and was throwing things back. And then the Callista Rumble stuff is Core JJ had a very funny quote. I was watching a video. Spawn was like, hey, definitely at some point Buzio is going to play something weird like Rumble or Camille support, and Cordy J was like, "It's okay. I'm like immune to bullshit or something." And then,
Immune to bullshit.
but it's just like, I'm immune to these terrible support picks that he'll never touch. So classic. I don't know, man. Team Liquid just felt like they were so insanely good this series, and the whole weekend in general. So I think like there's some copium if you're a FlyQuest fan that yeah, let's be honest, their drafting was really screwed. Um, internal issues can really tilt a team, so we won't know for sure, but I don't know, man. I just felt like Team Liquid was on such a different level that even if FlyQuest was playing at full strength, I kind of feel like they would still win. The bot lane just such a huge gaping advantage for Team Liquid. So, any more thoughts on Team Liquid? Any more thoughts on FlyQuest in this series? Let's.
Any more thoughts on both teams? I do think Masio and Busio were not at the level. Like I feel like there were a lot of participants. Whipple had his good times and his bad times, but on average, he was still at least a top laner in playoffs. And he was still, doing stuff. Inspire had a little bit of an off series, but it's hard. It's hard with the drafts he was given. Like the Viego angle was so terrible in that GP cam. Like, what are you going to do with Viego here? I think that somebody on some podcast mentioned that Nautilus even would have been an extreme addition for that comp to like make it do something versus Tom Kench. And I feel like the problem is they are too weak as bot laners that they definitely did not trust Masu without a Tom Kench attached to him, and he couldn't carry on it at all. Other than that, I would say APA is really the star for this, and I think he got player of the series. This guy, I was literally calling him one of the worst mid laners like 4 weeks ago, okay, like 6 weeks ago, 5 weeks ago.
Yeah,
it was midway through the season. I'm like, no, I'm done. Like not that like he can't get better, but like I said the theory that most players when you debut, that is generally where a lot of people stay within a standard deviation. They get a little better at other things, right? But if you don't have hands, you don't have hands. And we were disappointed, but me especially, disappointed that he didn't improve his champion pool. Then he comes into playoffs and he has the best Talia NA has probably ever shown. Like there was a couple of weeks where Bjergsen, when he was playing with Double,
Palafaker,
he was Palafax, right? Really good at
flicking
Talia,
people on G2, right? Yeah,
but APA was just doing this like he's a one trick of Talia. Like at one point, is he gonna be like his ASOL's a free win, his Ziggs is like 80% win rate. They showed his stats with ASOL. Ziggs is like 10-2, 10-3, like something absurd at a pro level, right? And he's been a part of dysfunctional rosters that don't just speak English, speak a lot of Korean. Even this one that does speak better English, they probably speak Korean. Like I legitimately think this guy had the biggest like half split glow up I've ever seen from a NA player 100%, but just in a long time. He just randomly decided that in playoffs he was him. Yeah. And I was wrong. I am sorry. I'm very happy that he's done well. I'm worried that he's still going to get gapped by like Chovy, Faker, Knight, etc. But like like even when Jensen was at his peak, and he said, "I'm a clap Faker," and then he got like doomed. Yeah. He like got boomed. I'm like, dude, you've done everything you need to. I will probably still flame you when we lose at MSI as our first seed.
Yep.
But I'm very proud. I'm like truly NA talent, him and Jan, how they've gotten to this point. Like TL's coaching staff must be like actually goated. Like it doesn't make any sense how quickly.
Yeah, dude. Steve, this is a budget year, right? Steve saved hella money keeping AP and Yeon, and he wins after spending what $10 bajillion on Bjergsen and Hansama back in the day. Yeah, no, this is a big deal for Team Liquid, and they're also beating Bwipo, right? Bwipo sat on Team Liquid's bench for like a year, and then goes to another team. They meet in the finals. Impact comes out on top, right? They won in the trade deal. There's a lot of narratives, I think, also going around this weekend, just like with the players, right? Like, guess who's in the finals? Well, it's 2 former supports of Double Lift. Guess who keeps making it to top 3 and over again? It's that special EG roster, right? Bwipo, Inspired, and not Bwipo, Impact, Inspired, and JoJo. They're on 3 different teams, but they're on that old EG roster together. They make it to top 3, right? It's really cool to see like these special teams in the past kind of get like spread apart and mixed apart, and then you see the same players pop up at different times at the top again. So yeah, and then congrats to Umti, right? His post interview was very emotional, but fully deserved. first split in LCS. He's still got the Korean hands and the Korean fingers. He just wins it all. He wins it all. He wins the split after chasing a title for 8 years and bottom tier LCK teams, right? Like,
Basically chasing playoffs. He sometimes just didn't make it all. He was always on like very bottom teams, like Junior
yeah,
Greens, Bro.
yeah,
Everyone remembers Bro. Like he,
dude.
sad playing.
Generic
Like,
sad play, dude. 10th place, like year after year after year. Yeah, that's Umti. And then
people were saying he's a good player, but you know, if you look only at results, you're like, I mean, he just, you know, obviously, if he's not good, why? If he's good, why is a good team not picking him up? Right? That was the narrative, and I thought that too. I was like, yeah, he's pretty okay, but he probably has some issues in like tryouts or something, right? He must just be bad in scrims, whatever. No, he's been legit. He's like the least hyped jungle acquisition we've had in a hot minute, and he has been legitimately solid. You know, he hasn't popped off like Pioshik against T1, but I mean, he did get one of 2 pentakills ever. The other being, I think, X Smithy.
No, it was Pioshik. Yeah, Pioshik got the
Pioshik, sorry, the TL jungler. Yes, Pioshik.
Yeah, Pioshik got the pentakill last year, and then Umti gets the pentakill this year. The only time a jungler's ever gotten pentakills in LCS. Yeah, it's pretty interesting that the change from Summit and Pioshik to Impact and Umti, just stability, right, really let APA and Neon glow. Like, God, it just makes me realize how bad Summit was, man. Like, I'm just amazed. Like, he was just so freaking terrible, dude. Like, doesn't matter if you're 15 CS up. Like, he just doesn't have a brain. Impact is even in lane and has the biggest brain. Like, you know, name a worse deal, name a worse trade.
Or you make a mistake as Impact, and even if he screws up, right, he comes back as a real human later and like does work.
Yeah, he's always useful. Impact's always useful. Like Summit has a very narrow usefulness window. Let's see. Anything else we can do? How can we glaze Team Liquid more? Cordier J was honestly, he was getting the fraud allegations for years. It's kind of interesting to see the narrative come around. So like in 2021, I think people started to be like, it was mostly started in 2022, right? In 2022, that was the Bjergsen, Hansama, Bwipo, Santorin roster. Cordier J could not play the Enchanter meta, right? And he got a lot of flame. I think he kept making like first or second All-Pro, but everyone would be like, oh, undeserved, he's washed, he's getting old, he doesn't fit in the meta, right? 2023, same deal, right? It felt like he didn't really overcome those allegations, still bad at ranged and enchanters, still getting a lot of like all-pro votes here and there, second or third. Everybody in the comments is being like, undeserved, he's been playing very poorly, this other sport's been playing better. Finally, this year, I think it's wrapped all the way back around, where the narrative is that Cordier J sucks, he's not on the all-pro team, but he's actually deserves it, and now he's actually good this year. So it's like, he was underperforming and being overrated, and now it's kind of like it turned all the way back around. Finally, he's underrated, and now he's kind of overperforming. I do think that I can firmly say at the end of playoffs, Cordier J was probably the best support for the majority of it. I think Buzio deserved the first All Pro in regular season, but Cordier J was a superstar in playoffs. I felt like he had very, very large just engages, mostly just on the Nautilus and the Rakan, right? I think the Rakan series against, I think it was 100 Thieves, was like really insane. It was like, you know, Samsung level of Cordier J. But then his Nautilus against Cloud9 got him a bunch of game-winning picks onto Berserker. Like I swear, on the co-stream, Doubles co-stream, they kept making fun of Berserker as the Nautilus hook magnet. He just gets hit by every Nautilus hook. And it was true. In the FlyQuest series, he got hit by like Buzio's Flash Nautilus hook. And then in the Cloud9 series, Cordier J has the most insane Hex Flash over the wall in the mid lane to just like wrap around and nail Berserker right in the leg and start a fight. Like, I felt like Cordier J was really just a superstar this series. So glad to see him return a bit back to form, right? Because he was, you know, going up and down in his career, but now he's finally on the uptick, on the up climb. So good for him. Yeah, and then let's talk a little bit about the trash talk. I do think it's a bummer that FlyQuest lost their coach, but deservedly so. FlyQuest has been talking so much crap on pros, mostly Bwipo and Inspired. They have been unleashing the flame onto NA, calling everybody like just not useful. They don't practice as much. They're not as good. Inspired being like, I'm going to take a rookie team, a rookie bot lane, and win a split. I did it last year. I'm going to do it this year, and it's just too easy. It's all me, right? Only to get completely destroyed by another team with a bunch of veterans and rookies, right? And then Yeon in the post interview just unleashes the reverse smack talk and saying like, you know, they weren't even shit. Like it was actually a pretty easy finals for Yeon, and a pretty easy finals for Team Liquid in general. So, yeah. Any last closing thoughts on Team Liquid and their great victory?
Yeah, there's so many closing thoughts to have. I think that the stakes that were raised because of all the shit talk going back and forth were great. We need this. Yes, they were obnoxious on the like pros and stuff like that, but I thought that was hilarious. You need a
Yeah,
heel,
it's fun.
an HEL for people who don't watch wrestling. He'll like the people who play like the bad guy on purpose, right? They play the guy that the anti-hero. They're like the guy you cheer against. You need those people to create tension. We used to have that. W used to be a heel for so long in his career where he's called people trash and he wasn't getting the achievements. And then when he started getting them, he became the hero, right? But we never had like another, well, we had Dardoch, but we didn't have like a lot of heels keep rising up, right? I think you shouldn't be afraid of shit talk. And if it backfires, it's so much more rewarding for the community. You actually should have seen the engagement on the TL thread, the TL versus FlyQuest. Under a normal year, TL and FlyQuest are neither of them are the most popular orgs, right? And this time, like, so many people were like, man, I'm so glad. Like, yeah, let's go Umpty, screw Flippo and Inspire. They were so cocky European.
Yeah.
But that's great.
Yeah.
That's exactly what we need. We need storylines. We need good players with bigger egos, and they keep building, and then maybe we'll have a rivalry. We haven't had a real bona fide rivalry in fucking years because everyone's too kosher. Everyone too wants to make friends. And we've got to have APA here and two Europeans come in and start some beef. I love it.
Dude, the all chat meta. To have APA actually win after all of the shenanigans, all of the allegations, the first FlyQuest series, all chatting to the team's detriment almost, to saying he wasn't going to all chat at all in the 100 Thieves series, to winning that, to just going right back into it, to all chat against like JoJo and Jensen. It was just, it is an amazing, hilarious arc. It's great for content too, and I think that the viewership on average was apparently 10% higher than last year. The Puke viewership was a bit lower, which is fine because normally like Cloud9 I think brings the highest viewership these days. So them missing the finals didn't get the peakest viewership. But all things considered, there's so many rookies, like there's so many players without actual fan bases, right? APA, Yeon, Masu, Buzio, none of these players have fan bases behind them. But we still had a great turnout for finals, and yeah, I think that this split was a success, right? I think the 8-team league kind of like, we just want to do an overall like retrospective on the split. 8-team league made things way better, consolidating talent, right? Having like way less dumpster games. There were almost no games that were worthless, right? A lot of the games, right? And you were wondering if Immortals was going to upset C9 again, or if Dignitas was going to be competitive against this top team, like Energy or something like that. And it was that. So congrats to Mark Z on a very successful first split. The tempo and pacing of the broadcast was great. The content was great, and the content bleeding into just the players creating their own content is kind of this like golden ratio of like, yeah, we needed better content made by Riot, made by LCS, but then the players need to make content too, and pros just allowed that, right? I think creating pros allowed the players to make their own content at their own time on Twitter and through all chat and stuff like that. So great stuff, great split. I think in the future we just need to change up a bit of the formatting, less dead time, right? The 2-week dead time was a major buzzkill. Probably get more games in. We only have 8 teams, right? Just get them playing more, right? It was so fun watching all of them play. I looked forward to every weekend watching them play because it was nice and quick and there was no dead time. And now we just need more of that. Let's just repeat it. Let's just get like a bunch more of those out. So I would be down for like a triple round robin or something like that. Anything like that would be interesting. Yeah, any closing thoughts on the split overall?
Closing thoughts, I agree. I think we hit the rock bottom. Like, you see people are making content now. There's genuinely good sections. All the short wait times, great, awesome. Love it all. Blah, blah, blah. Like, amazing. I would say that the LCS, really, what only the last thing we really need is just that like banger international series while the tension is on us, right? We had it, and RGG2 is great.
Mhm.
We started to get momentum. I mean, maybe some of that's here too.
Yeah.
We just need a win over an Asian team, guys.
Yeah.
But other than that, no. I've said my piece. I'm super happy about Team Liquid winning. There is the asterisk. I will give FlyQuest their laurels. They could have had a closer series. It's still, in my opinion, Liquid was so holistically a better team that you could have had better drafting, but like even with the mental like less tilt, at best it's a 32. I you never know, right? Momentum is a funny thing like that. But Liquid looked like, even though they did lose a game, it looked like they were the better team.
Yep.
Holistically, they knew how to play together. They trust each other. They play like the Asian team we said they were. They're playing crazy. They take the trades, but there were so many good calls. So I'm really proud of them. That's it.
Yeah.
Go Liquid.
Go Liquid.
I thought it would be a terrible rep internationally, but after seeing, I'm like, they still will get stomped probably, but I'm less certain.
I got some faith. I got some faith in the bot lane. Okay.
Oh, it's been 6 months, huh? Nice.
It's been 6 months. Hey, I'm just saying. Okay, Yeon and CoreJJ, I think they're gonna do something in lane. Okay, I think they have learned a lot from their Lucian Nami arc, where they just spam that shit and it looked terrible for like over a year. I think they've been playing Lucian Nami and having it look bad for over a year since pretty much Yeon started as an ADC. But now that they finally moved away from that, and I feel like Yeon and CoreJJ have the biggest bot lane champion pool, I'm genuinely excited. I'm not saying they're gonna win the game, but I'm excited to see some lane wins. Okay, I'm ready to see Yeon and CoreJJ win lane and bot lane. Okay, because let's not talk about T1, but some other Asian bot lanes, right? I think we can do some damage down there. I think we can actually contest because you cannot say that for other Asian bot lanes that they have the widest champion pools. Yeah, they're really
true.
good and they have insane team fighting and mechanics and stuff. They're Asian bot laners, of course, but the champion pool from Team Liquid, right? I think we can do some spicy stuff. So I'm excited for that. Yeah, and then I guess that's it, huh? We're going to MSI. We finished the earliest. I think we have 2 out of the 3 teams that have officially qualified for MSI. Is G2, is Team Liquid and FlyQuest. I hope FlyQuest gets some stuff together. I hope they figure out their coaching stuff and everything in their backroom, because their road is not done. They still have time to redeem themselves at MSI and I think we're sending our 2 best teams by far. So that's very, very exciting. And I think that a little bit of underdog mentality is going to do well for FlyQuest, because like I always see Bwipo and Inspired especially as really, really clutch players. So if you underestimate them, that's where clutch breeds. That's where clutch grows the most, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you look back to Golden Guardians last year, right? We thought we weren't going to do anything last year at MSI either. Golden Guardians took a game off BLG, which was literally the only game we took off the Eastern team all year long. So I think there's a chance FlyQuest can do that, and Bwipo does have experience beating Asian teams. Jensen does a little bit too, and then Impact and CoreJJ, they are Asian. They were on Asian teams, so they can. There's
Thank you. Our major insight: they are Asian.
They're Asian, and they were on those Asian teams back in the day.
Yes.
So there is room to upset. There is room for us to grow and do something at this MSI. And if anything, right, Umti already released a banger interview. He said that at the very least, they're going to beat European teams. So, should be fun.
All right. I'm so glad he came over.
I know, me too, man. I'm glad at Umti. Anything else? Any last thoughts before we close out this episode? I think it's been a great finals. It's been a great LCS. Congrats to Team Liquid. Congrats to APA, man. I mean, I just gotta say it, like, from being considered probably the worst mid laner, not just by you, but by everybody, for most of this year, a bit of last year too, to really struggling in the first playoff series against Jensen and FlyQuest, to just looking like the best mid laner all the way up until the finals. It's pretty crazy. Pretty crazy stuff. Go America.
The other thing we might want to briefly touch on is that Riot finally is not the word I want to use, Riot allowing teams to participate in the Esports World Cup in Saudi Arabia. That's pretty big news, because that is we had the conversation about the Neom deal where LEC blocked that because it was working with Saudi Arabia in the past, and now we're just allowing teams to go to the
Yeah.
Esports World Cup. We don't need to get into the weeds because the details aren't hashed out, but I mean, it is a topic that I think is big news.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's big news. I think it's hard for me to say anything other than like disagree, like bad. Like Saudi Arabia is not a country that you should support, right? I think that in America, you will look. It's you doing business with a country or companies in that country is the same as saying as I'm okay with what you do. Let's break bread. Like let's make some money together. And well, unfortunately, I don't agree with that stuff. And I think that it was great for LEC back in the day. I have all of their cast members and stuff and their workers kind of outraged that there was a potential deal with Saudi Arabia from LEC. But this time around, it's like it's kind of sad for LCS. LCS is low key dying, and so sometimes people make deals with the devil. I don't know, not Riot as a whole, League of Legends as a whole, but yeah, I don't know. I don't want to. Yeah, don't want to go.
Yeah,
Don't go there.
I would say like there's definitely gonna be teams that are gonna go there. The money's drying up for now, and it's between that or dying.
Yeah.
For
Yeah.
some of these orgs, I bet Team Liquid will go.
Take a deal with the devil to make money. That's what you gotta do, right? I mean, hey, we all work at companies. Like I know what company you work at. You know what company I work at. It's not exactly,
We're not gonna discuss that here, but yeah, I mean, very few big corporations are clean, right? So like you can really get into the semantics. I think for us is just that I don't support it. I understand it. There are going to be people who are going who have said publicly things, and I do think that when you make a stance on this, you like kind of have to be able to back it up long term. But also when it comes to people's livelihoods, putting bread on the table, like it's tough. I understand, but I'm not happy about it. We'll see. I mean, maybe we'll cover it, maybe we won't. We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see how things develop. Another thing I wanted to tackle on. So we had a great episode where we talked about all this great positive stuff about Team Liquid. Now we're going to get into negative stuff at the very tail end of it, but that's okay. This is just our thoughts. It was actually really disappointing that the LCS playoffs and finals was in the studio. It was just at the same LCS studio, 300 people max. You can really feel the pain of Valorant takes over, the some of the time slots. We lost 2 teams, right? We're getting our times changed left and right. Budgets are being cut, right? We lost Dash and a couple casters and a couple producers and blah 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 blah. Now we don't even get a stage. We don't even get a stadium. We get the same LCS. Like I feel like when I was watching the winners interview, and I looked into the eyes of Impact and Cordae, these guys who have won it all, who have done it so many times, who have been on the biggest stages possible, they were happy, but they weren't like ecstatic. They were calm, right? Like if you were to check their blood pressure, I'm sure it was very normal, right? If you were to check their hands, probably very steady. APA, Yeon, Umti, they were popping off their first title. I'm sure they're having a great time. Didn't matter if they were in the LCS studio or not, but like I wonder how differently things would have been if we were actually on a big stage, because we know that being in a big stadium with thousands and thousands of people where you can barely even hear your own thoughts, people play differently, very differently. We didn't get to see that, of course, and I think that the rookies on FlyQuest would have suffered just as much as the rookies on Team Liquid. Like let's be honest, but it's interesting, right? Anything could change when you bring in those variables. Like this is just hypothetical, right? But I think if like the last few stages of playoffs were in a bigger and bigger stadium, and were really high, like finals type events, Cloud9 would have performed relatively better. As in, they would have looked better than their counterparts more often than not, because all 5 of them would not be affected by the nerves the same way that Masu and Buzio would have, or Meech and Ayla, or APA and Yeon, like all these newbies, or Quid, right? So, kind of interesting to think about.
That is a great point. I did notice it. Like, okay, 2 things. It kind of sucks that our viewership is up and that like the executives or the people who made the decision, like, look, you You guys don't need the stage. Viewership's up 10%. I mean, the peak is down, but that, you could easily attribute that to C9 not being there and TSM literally not being an org anymore, right? Like,
Yeah.
peaks dropping makes sense. But I also think you're right. I think that the world where they have their drafting coach on stage, TL wins still, in most cases. The world where this whole playoffs run was actually at, like the road show they used to do, and then at least for quarterfinals and onward, like actually having some venues, or it was the semis for LCS. But either way, like regular split. Either way, the finals being on stage would have made a difference. Absolutely. 100%. Yeah. These guys were playing steady hand, doing clutch plays, playing as scrim gods. And for the longest time, veterans made their paychecks off of being good when it mattered. Good on stage. There were so many times Impact's played excellent all year, but like there are certain times where he turns it on, or Doublelift turns it on, right? Because regular season doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter.
For the best players, regular season does not matter. You're like, hey, I'll see you in playoffs. I'll see you on the big stage.
How many times has the first seed actually won? Like, is it even over 50%? I don't know. It's either close or
it's around 50%. As Zale was saying, he went to check upper bracket versus lower bracket and stuff like that, and oftentimes. Oh, you mean first seed from regular season?
First seed, like regular season, like the.
Oh, I have no idea.
It's probably lower than 50 then.
Yeah, lower.
Right.
Yeah.
If it's even between upper and lower, that's fine. But that generally implies that it's not usually not just the first seed making it through the top, right?
Yeah.
There's been so many runs like NRG is the super obvious one recently, and TL, and a lot of C9s weren't first seed coming in, but then they came out, dominant. My point is, like, both teams have a lot of super veterans, right? Umti is literally like, he's like, I've been here for a long ass, I've seen shit, right?
Yeah.
And Impact has seen everything.
Yeah.
So there's kind of equivalent on that side, but the carries of the day for Liquid was APA, who's been to Worlds, sure, but he's never won, right? A championship on the biggest stage and had to be the carry, right?
Yeah.
Just one more shaky hand play. Like, you already saw him flashing in after like W flashing in, like, oh, I can't auto set it. Oops. Those nerves will make a difference, and momentum makes a huge difference. I really think Liquid, maybe they would have been even better. Like, they just like completely, they took Meech and Boostia and they're like, yeah, we don't give a shit. We are a team possessed. But you're absolutely right. It is a little disappointing. And I feel bad that Umti's big moment wasn't like literally in front of like the giant 5K, 10K crowd, right? Like, he is happy beyond belief, sure. And he was like crying and all that. I'm so happy for him.
Yeah.
But it was in the studio, guys. Like, he deserves it. He deserves an audience to be like, bro, I saw Umti finally lift the trophy after being on shitter teams, being ELO held for his whole career. He literally said, I finally have a career, guys. And I was like, holy shit, that was deep. I don't know if that was like a bad not a bad choice of words, but it was perfect for the moment.
Yeah. Well, you know what that means then. Like, we just have to work harder, right? We just have to win MSI on the big stage, and then we'll lift that trophy instead, and that'll feel very, very sweet.
Yes.
Yep. I think a return to form for a lot of players like Corey JJ and Impact. Impact did go 9th place last split to winning it this split, right, from FlyQuest here. Oh, he beat FlyQuest, actually. That's funny.
I did have one last thought, but go ahead. Keep talking.
No, I'm just talking out of my ass and closing it out. Yeah, go ahead.
This was on my mind the whole time. FlyQuest fans are going to get upset at me. Is FlyQuest a choker org?
Well,
they've second placed a lot of times now. Like, I can remember many a time that they've second placed, and when it matters, they have never closed the deal.
I don't know. Okay, because like, let's look at their second places, because I remember all of them. It's actually only 3. So in 20, nope. The previous FlyQuest roster only got to 3rd last year. So in 2020 they had Solo, Santorin, Power of Evil, Wild Turtle, and Ignar. Okay, they made second place, but were power ranked like bottom tier. Like, they were considered a bad roster. So them making it second place is just a miracle in itself, right? I think that they very overperformed. So with that regard, right, like, think about the teams that they lost against. They lost against like Cloud9 at one of their peaks, and then they lost against TSM that just had a Doublelift and Bjergsen like reunited and stuff like that. So I mean, FlyQuest to me was that year in 2020 was overperforming by large standards. FlyQuest last
Wait,
year,
go back again. You've been lagging this whole time.
I was lagging this whole time. Son of a bitch.
Yes.
Okay.
Your whole FlyQuest like thing. I only heard the last sentence very clearly, so I was waiting.
FlyQuest overperformed in 2020. Okay, they had very tough competition. C9 that year was insane. They were cracked. I think that was the Niski roster. And then later that year, it was TSM. It was a rejoined Doublelift and Bjergsen hype train to win the whole thing, right? With Broken Blade and Spica and Biofrost and stuff like that. So if I'm being honest, FlyQuest, the fact that they made second place in 2020 twice in a row, and even then, FlyQuest, it was a 3-2 in finals against TSM in 2020 summer. That's impressive. That's crazy good considering their roster and their org. So, and then this second place, I mean, they lost their coach. I don't know, man. They had a pretty good run this year. So I don't think they're a choker org. I just think that they're just not a seasoned org. They just don't have the accolades, right? They've never had the star players like have it all. Like if we look at Team Liquid and Cloud9 and TSM back then and stuff like that, they've had like franchise players stick on their roster and be good and win stuff for years and years on end. FlyQuest has literally never had that. They've never had a franchise player last for longer than a year. So, I mean, I think respects to the org. They're doing great considering their situation, right? They're doing great considering they're not Team Liquid or Cloud9. So, that's my opinion.
Okay. Well, we'll surface this if it happens again. But
yeah.
Fair enough. I actually thought I got one of the 100 Thieves second places mixed up in my mind. I was looking at it.
Yeah. 100 Thieves was you can call them back when they had Closer, Someday, Abadagi.
Very good orgs, team rosters.
Yeah, FBI and Huhi, right? They were finals chokers for sure. They won one finals in 2021, and then they got second place like 3 times in a row. That to me was straight up, yeah, they were finals chokers. So I'm okay with calling 100 Thieves that. Yeah. All right. Well, that's probably gonna do it for us on this episode. It was a good wrap up. We had some interesting talks about Team Liquid, and we had some interesting talks about some other fun stuff in League of Legends. Next time we'll talk, I think we can probably just do a review of MSI once all the teams are finalized. But if we want to do a podcast before then, we can just talk about, maybe we can talk about some LEC stuff, some LCK stuff, because they're all heading into finals and playoffs, and I know we both watch them. So
just like a preview sort of thing, even before like everything's finalized. Like, hey, how's G2 doing? How's that run going? Stuff like that.
We can just get a little insight into our lesser Western teams.
Yeah, the weaker region.
Yeah. Be like, hey, G2, they're doing not too bad in their little region. Maybe they'll do something in MSI. Maybe they'll take a game off of us this year instead of just getting 2-0'd.
I fucking love it here, dude. That's been a great half of the year for NA.
Let's go. All right. That's gonna do it for us on the podcast. Try not to be too toxic. Congratulations to Team Liquid and to Kevin. We'll see you on the next episode. Peace.